I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have the acceptance of minutes for March 8th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion is carried. Okay, we've got the operating report summary for March 2023.
As normal, if you have any questions, let me know. So we averaged 4.4 million gallons, had a max of 6.6 million. Removal efficiencies 96 and almost 98%. We were 16 pounds under the nitrogen permit for a total of 162 and averaged 18.8% solids.
When does the UV come back on?
April 1st. So we started that up beginning of this month and everything's back in on disinfection now.
And it runs until when?
October 31st.
October 30th.
Yeah. So most plants go to September 31st. We go to, or September 30th. We go to the October 31st.
Okay, then we've got the project engineer report, current report dated March 2023.
All right. So start with the pump stations. On March 2nd, O&M installed batteries at Stanley, Tunxus pump station generators. Preventative maintenance was also completed at Stanley, and this was for the generator, including a thermostat, coolant change, and new hoses. On March 14th at the Southward pump station, we responded to a high flow alarm. We found some rags and debris in the pump, so the station went into backup mode, which is what it should do. So we cleaned the pump out, reset backup mode, and we put it into normal operation. Oakland, we pulled pump 1 on March 15th. We found some debris that was causing it to run high amps. After cleaning, everything ran normally. Patrick Flood pump station, I'll just go into the full thing now since I have it here. We discovered a force main break while responding to a pump failure alarm. We kept having priming issues. So the guys went out to check it. And when they went out there, they saw bubbling in the road. So we weren't sure if it was a water main or ours. So similar to last time, we turned one of the pumps on. We couldn't get full flow because we had the priming issues, but immediately it increased coming out of the pavement. So we knew it was our station. Let me scroll down to the pictures. So you can kind of see where it was. Basically, this is almost where it was last time. So it wasn't too far away. We were only talking about 30 to 40 feet. And you can kind of see on the bottom here, I passed the one picture around, but this was all just stone and fill coming out. There wasn't even 3/4 inch gravel around it. It was all just big rocks. So we're assuming this is pretty much what's causing the issues on the whole line. I'll just scroll down to the bottom picture. So it's a little hard to see, but there's a hole right here. And then there's a hole right here. These were the two sections kind of back to back. So you can see it's always the right bottom side of the pipe. Could probably be on the left, but it's just ironic that they were literally same type of hole, same location. It happened around, we're guessing we discovered around 9. We were up and running 12 hours later, around 9 p.m. We had McVac trucking everything from the wet well that we could get up to the jug handle and dumping it. We tried to keep up with as much as we could, and we were on about, like I said, 12 hours after it originally broke. This was the section we put in. It was about an 8-foot section. This was them cutting the old one out. And this was them basically lowering the new section in. But kind of as we discussed before, the issue is our concern is moving forward. That is potentially going to be an ongoing issue. When this happened in September of 21, we thought, well, we'll order the pipe in case it happens again, but we'll probably never have to use it. And then 18 months later, we had to use it. So the plan is now to maybe replace it with C900 PVC. We can get that quicker than the ductile. I was telling like Jim and Kevin before, ductile right now was March of 24 to even get our hands on the pipe. Connecticut Water, nobody has it because 14 is a weird size. So we're kind of looking into reserves, talking with finance, and then Russ and I are planning to try to work something out so we can prevent some of these in the future. There also isn't a bypass for this station. There is on the station, but in order to actually hook up, the next manhole would be up at the top of the jug handle by Yukon. So the option is either going over 84 where the connector is or crossing the 4 lanes by Yukon, either of which are terrible. So the plan is to put a bypass on the top of Wolf Pit, right on the hill where the connector is, so we could pump from Patrick to the end of Wolf Pit. And then all we have is the section of pipe that goes under the connector, and that would be it. So that's actually, I think, 12-inch in a 24-inch concrete. So I don't know if they put fill in there or like a link seal to hold it, but it's a pipe in a pipe. So shouldn't have any problems with that.
When was that done?
Same time, I think it was late 70s. Yep.
So my ignorance is feeling.
Yep.
Is there a way to line the pipe?
So we've called a couple places. Their response was, it may help to prevent this, but if the pipes are already failing at this rate, it's just going to be it'll buy you time, but it's not going to permanently fix it. And that's not cheap either. And then we still run into the same issue of, if we did do that, we still have to bypass the whole forest main, which is going to entail digging up the end of Wolf Pit to put a T in with 2 valves. Because even now, if we bypass it, it's either going over 84 or you're draining it and trucking it, which you can do it at night, but if it's a 2 or 3 day job, you're not going to truck 1.5 million, or you won't like the price tag, you know? So that's the plan moving forward. We should have something in about a month of what the definite plan is going to be, but we're going to try to go out to bid for that, obviously.
Now, would you see any value in some kind of a consulting engineer, or you think it's pretty obvious what needs to be done there?
We might ask DPC Engineering, who we've been working with recently for the plant stuff and the West Farms pump station, but it's pretty apparent what's going on. I mean, the material out there is just terrible. The problem is we don't know if it's
the whole
one half of Patrick Flood or if it's to Bird's Eye or Wolf Pit. We're not sure. So we have had talks about just doing Patrick, having the pipe on site, and then if it breaks, then we can do Wolf Pit.
How about would cameraing be any value?
We could, and we were actually going to do that too. Before we do that, though, we still need to bypass, because we got to shut everything down.
So yeah, in other words, regardless of which way we go, that's gonna be necessary, right? So
Yeah.
that seemed like something.
And I don't think the bypass we could probably do, and don't quote me,
Yeah.
for probably like 30 to 50. The pipe is only like 6. You need a T, a valve on top with like an elbow, and then just renting pumps if you wanted.
Mhm.
So maybe 20 or 30 to dig it and put it in, and 10 for material. And then we could camera it as much as we wanted at that point.
I mean, I don't wanna say this is an emergency, but I mean, it's like, there's no reason to wait, you know.
No, and that's our feeling too. So, because if we do this 3 or 4 times, we're going to get to the point where it would have been more cost effective just to do Patrick, the road.
The road.
So, and again, maybe not go across Bird's Eye to Wolf Pit, but at least put the bypass in. So if we ever have to, we'll do Patrick for now, and then we have the preparation if we need to. So,
And of course, now's the time to do the work with the spring and summer here.
and we were thinking too, there's no school buses.
Right?
So if we could get in before September, that would help. I mean, it's quick, but it's possible. The idea is the right side of the road, if the pump station is on the right, the water main's on the left, the old force main is on the right, but it's deep, it's 11 feet, which we can't figure out either because you're pumping anyways. So every time we dig this, I mean, we're going down almost twice as deep, 1.5 times as deep as this room. So we'd probably put it 4 to 6 feet down, and we could probably avoid cutting some of the pavement because we could go on the sidewalk side. So that might be an option too. But we'll keep you posted on that. So that was Patrick Flood. For the rest of the collection system, we jetted Cottage Street, Key Street, Elm, Maple, Merriman, Mill Street, Perry, School Street, Sunset, and Sylvan. assisted highway and cleaning, vacuuming the storm drains on Indian Hill, Penfield, Redcoat, Silver Smith, and Whispering Road. They're actually going out to, I think, to vote on if they're paving that for budget. So they should be paving that shortly if it goes through. Patrick Flood, we discussed. Continue to inspect right of ways. Allstate and Pinnacle right of way were inspected and mowed. And we'll be working on Allstate more this month. Repairs and maintenance at the WPCF. Cleaned and inspected the influent bar screen and primary wears. We repaired conveyor 2 on the dewatering system. This wasn't the one we did last month. This was basically just a bolt on the shaft had broken. So the keyway fell out. So we ended up having to bring it down to the shop, press it out. We put a new bolt and keyway in. It was only about a 4-hour job. It wasn't too bad. All the DO probes were cleaned and inspected. And on March 28th, the backflow preventers in the plant were tested and certified. Pump station backflow preventers were also inspected. We tested all the UV banks and channels, and they were put online on March 31st for season starting on April 1st. I did not want to zoom out. I don't know what I did, but you guys can still see it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the last one, April 5th, we had chainsaw safety training and general classroom training for OSHA, and that included us and then highway personnel. And that should be it for the engineering report.
Yeah, looks like we had one, got a repair or it's a permit, Johnson Avenue.
Yeah, Johnson Avenue, just the fee was collected with the building permit. And then engineering had me add this in. This was,
From that Johnson Avenue.
yeah, they're terminating it. So I think we just had to approve it and make a motion for it, but it wasn't anything we had to do separately because I checked. And that was it.
Okay, so you need a motion on this.
Yep.
In charge here.
Correct.
Move approval.
Second. Moved in second in discussion, so this is the assessment of benefits against the property of Amco Development LLC, 125 Foxden Road, Avon, Connecticut. Assessed in the name of Florence C. Carley in the amount of $2,500. Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And that's it, unless you guys have any questions.
We were talking earlier about the coming up, you're gonna come up with a figure here on the reserve
Yep.
balance. And then briefly discuss the 3 projects that you think.
Yep. So the 3 projects, and so when we have capital improvements, we do them 4 times a year. And that goes towards the capital budget when we approve it. Russ and I have discussed, and the DPC engineering has already looked at the pump station, which would be by Orchard coming up South Road, just to take the head off of the pumps. Right now there's 248 feet ahead. So when we had the failure at West Farms, the volute was basically this thin from cavitation. So when we went in, we had epoxy on the inside of the volute, and that was the only thing basically keeping the rest of the volute. Everything else is just worn out from cavitation. And a lot of that is, to put in perspective, those pumps at West Farms are the same size as our influent pumps here. These will pump about 4,000, they pump 300 there. So it's all head. So we're trying to just cut that in half to obviously lengthen the equipment time, and then also help with the force main too going up the hill. So that should about cut it in half. I think it was about 120 feet. So that's one project. It'd be a pump station right where that playground is now. The second one was we're going to add a crane to an I-beam in the dewatering building to help with the presses when we do the repairs. That's only about, I think it was 38 or 40,000. And then obviously the one that kind of supersedes everything now is Patrick Flood.
On the beam over here, is that something we could do, or?
So we could, I had DPC just do a structural on it, just because some of the some of the beams, we had everything sandblasted because of asbestos in there and it's PCBs. So some of the bases are still kind of like rusty and rotted. So we did a structural test just to make sure everything could hold it. Because the augers coming out are probably 2 tons. So they said we were pretty much good to go. And then we could pretty much do the work ourselves at that point. There's some moving of the conduit we're gonna have to do, but for the most part, it's not a small job, but it's not massive. The big one's gonna be Patrick. So those are pretty much the 3.
So the South Road, I mean, we talked about it probably 10-15 years. So it's not really debatable. I mean, it's something that's, you know,
Yeah.
worth doing.
I mean, at this point, it's either going to be a complete overhaul of West Farms because that station's getting old as well. But even then, it's not efficient the way it is because there's so many feet ahead going up the hill, and believe it or not, the pumping demand there isn't that great. Like we keep up at 300 gallons a minute, and they only run probably 4 hours a day. It's just at peak times with that head, you can hear them cavitating, and right now there's nothing we can really do except put a series of pumps in,
Right.
which is still going to be pricey because it's a complete overhaul. Because you don't have room in the tube to do it, so you'd be excavating the whole thing down there. So this would probably be a pretty good medium. And then we also put in the plans to have a small chemical tank up there. So if we wanted permanganate or hydroxide or anything for H2S in the lines, we can add it there. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It'd be in the building.
Does all that come to Farmington or does some go to West Hartford?
Some goes to West Hartford because actually, you know, we were talking about how we were trucking up the hill and then dumping at the jug handle. When West Farms went down, we were pumping out of West Farms and dumping behind Best Buy. So behind Best Buy is MDC. So I called Matt Bassett and or MDC, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I put 100,000 gallons in your sewer? Because it's coming out either way. So they were like, no, you're fine, go ahead. And we ended up going right behind Red Robin and dumping there. So that's Matt Bassett, or I'm sorry, MDC at that point. Yep. I don't know where it switches in the middle, but that was the closest manhole to our station. And then if you go down by Wendy's in that intersection, it's all MDC going down.
So there always is that option if you had
Down the road.
there, yeah,
to do that. Because that ran into the other thing where when West Farms first broke, it was a moment where we were kind of like, we're going to have to bypass over the road here, which it was, I think that was like the tax-free week or something for school shopping. And we're like, there's no way we could do this, right? It was crazy. And they had come out and be like, you can't have these trucks here, you know, it's blocking traffic. I go, well, then you got to shut them all down.
Right.
And then she's like, keep the trucks. So I was like, that's fine. But so there's that option to do that. So yeah, that's the plan. It should help. The pumps at the playground would probably be about the same size as Hyde Road, maybe a little smaller, like 45-50 horse. And then we could drop West Farms down from 90 to probably about 50. So should lengthen the time we get out of the equipment there.
So the playground folks won't hear any noises or anything?
No, I mean, it should be silent. They're both submersibles because everything we do now is submersible. And they're not big pumps. Like I said, they're 40-50 horse. I mean, that pump would probably be about this tall.
So does that station, would it take away from the space currently used by the playground?
I have to look on the plans. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's actually, you know where there's a parking area for the playground and it goes back a little bit. I think we own a little bit back there, so we're not going to demolish it. It would be like down, step back a little bit, I think, because then it drops off pretty quickly. But I can, I'll bring the plans to the meeting next month because we've already kind of mapped out how we want it.
So obviously at this point, we see what our reserve balance
Yep.
is, and then basically set a timeline, I guess, on.
Yep. And this was always, before COVID, this was pretty much like, we're going to do it in 2 years, and then everything else went crazy. So we waited, and then the first Patrick flood happened. Now the second one. So obviously that's going to take priority, but this was around, I think, 1.7 or 1.9, somewhere in that range.
Now, you may not know anything about this, but in the back of my head here, you know, we had that very contentious Fairview Orchard
about the septic and sewer.
Yeah. Now, would that pump station have any, relevancy to that discussion or not?
I know what happened. I wasn't here. I know moving forward, it's come up in the meetings we had with DPC about, hey, could we approach them to connect again? And it was pretty much like, no. So
But as far as the design,
I don't think so,
Yeah.
but I'll double
I
check.
think that, just somebody that's knowledgeable of it,
Yeah, it's good thoughts.
you know.
While that we're there.
Yeah, right, do it once instead of doing it twice.
Right.
Yeah.
At least.
I know they tried in the past and then they didn't want it or something
Well,
like that,
yeah,
right? But there was a whole like,
Yeah. right.
yeah,
Well, they voted, the neighborhood was mixed.
Yeah.
Okay. It was half and
Some
half.
needed it and,
Some,
Yeah.
some wanted it and some did not.
okay.
With new Suffolk, no,
Right,
right.
And then it fails and it's,
Yeah.
right.
should have had sewer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, look at that. And I'll bring those next time too.
Okay, any other business? Can't hear none. We're
Oh,
here.
yeah, let me just, compliment Mark, like to thank you for getting the flag back.
Oh,
up on
thank you.
the, flagpole, it looked great, it's a large sail. There are no lights at the base of that, so it can't be blown, you guys have to put it up and take it down every day.
We tried to. I'm not gonna say they do it every day. There aren't lights on the base. It was something I mentioned. I haven't heard from him yet on it, but I don't see why we couldn't get them. There's plenty of power out there,
Yeah,
so I'm for it.
yeah, instead of putting it up and down.
Yeah, because it's not
It's
easy.
future, but right.
On a day like this morning, when they put it up,
With the wind.
I mean, I told you before,
got the-
two of us could hang off of it, it'll pick us up. And it's nice because there's power lines right there, so it's like an extra bit of excitement, but
But it looks great when you're driving that, well, that you can see it when that you're at the light on
Yeah.
Route 4 and Route 10, you look at it,
Oh, okay. I didn't-
it's clear as a bell, well, it's 20 by 30 foot flag.
Mm,
yeah, it's big.
And so it's huge and so when you're driving through. Either way that it's.
Yeah, you can see it coming down the hill in the
Or
morning.
you can definitely see it when you're lined up in the traffic,
mhm.
waiting for the lights to change at the intersection of 10 and 4. So it looks great, but thank you for your efforts, Mark.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Getting that through.
So you don't have to give us the details here, but as far as you were having trouble getting a hold of anybody and,
Yeah, I'll touch on it,
okay, good. All right.
but I finally got a hold of him. It was, I forgot the guy's name. I apologize, but I have all the emails from him, but he was excellent. Once I got a hold of him, I mean, he had it done in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It was
And all
just,
the coverings are back.
Yeah,
on the pole.
yeah, it was just getting him here, and he was regional. I think he was out of like Tampa. So
Mhm.
you can imagine how many calls it took to get there, but it got there, so.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second,
We can second any discussion. And none all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you for coming out.